The interesting thing that what we were talking about though is that with those bands, and I agree with them. There's still a lot of those bands that are big. The Deftones and Korn and Disturbed and whatnot.
Right.
There's maybe 15 that are really big.
No, you're right.
And that's kind of equivalent to the 80s, I guess. The Bon Jovis and the Motleys and the Metallicas and Megadeths, etc. of the world. But I'm talking about the second tier. I'm talking about the equivalents to like a Black and Blue, which I guess in the 90s would have been what, like Crazy Town or Flybanger or.
Yeah, I saw the Crazy Town guy. Well, at that gig, that Paul Gervasi that I met him at in Hollywood, I actually saw the Crazy Town singer walking around at that. He played at it. They played.
Really?
They did.
Crazy Town is still happening, huh?
Well, they were playing that day. I don't know how happening they were, but he looked good. He looked the same.
Does he still have the spiky hair?
Little dude.
Does he still have the spiked out hair?
No, I think if I'm recalling it correct, he just had a shaved head at this gig. But he was kind of lurking around. He was kind of looking to see if anybody recognized him. He was kind of walking around the place.
Dude, nobody would have recognized him when Crazy Town was a thing. Who are we kidding here?
Yeah, a lot of the early 2000s stuff, you could tell already that it's not going to have the longevity that even the 90s stuff has.
Right on. All right, man. Well, let's switch directions here because
all right.
I think if I switch directions, maybe we'll get into a better flow here.
I'm gonna try that too. I took one of Susan's White Claws.
Oh, look at you, faggot! Jesus, nice going. All right,
I saw the funniest commercial. It sounds like you might have seen it too, where a guy starts defending White Claw. He was like kind of a tough guy.
Yeah,
and he's like, hey, there's a lot of people out there saying that White Claws, for sissies and this and that. I just want you to know that, I drink White Claw and, I'm going to have one right now. And then he just pulls up a dildo. It's right up his mouth.
Yeah, but it's the opposite effect of the Snickers commercial.
They actually have a very high amount of alcohol in them.
Stop. I'll never know that. Know why? Because I'll never be that fruity to drink one. Never.
Well, actually, you know what? In her case, my lady's case, I prefer when she drinks these because then there's less tensions,
Yeah, but I think there's a label on the side of it that says must have a vagina to ingest.
And she does.
Yeah, but you don't.
You to know.
Maybe you do.
To know that she does.
Maybe you do. Maybe you do too, and that's why you're drinking it. What's wrong with you?
I'm a hermaphrodite.
I guess so. Well, dude, let's talk about this because this is something I'm sure you've had this conversation with Stephen Pearcy over. And I am very curious. I want to have this with Stephen Pearcy myself at some point.
Okay.
As you are aware, but probably not to the level that I am with this. I mean, everybody any one of us that grew up in the 80s loved Ratt. That's pretty fair. Everybody liked Round and Round or Lay It Down or,
everybody with good taste.
Well, everybody pretty much. Ratt was huge. Okay. Ratt was a gigantic monster band and everybody liked their tunes. And I did too. I'm not going to say I didn't, but I'm going to be honest. I liked Arcade better. I was way more into Arcade. It was heavier. I thought Stephen got into a really good writing groove, especially the first Arcade record.
Were you aware that I contributed to that?
No. To Arcade 1?
On a lyrical level.
To Arcade 1?
Yes, sir.
To what song?
To Dancing with the Angels.
No kidding.
Which is the opening track, which was funny because this band
Voodoo.
We had a demo, but here's the twist. Stephen, was kind of helping our band at the time because, as I've spoken about, he lived across the street from me when I was growing up and I was a young teenager, and he knew I had a band that I was a garage band that I was playing with and at the time. And I remember at some point he gave a list of song titles that he thought would be cool.
Okay.
And one of them was a song title called Fear City. And so Andy Milner, which is the son of actor Martin Milner, little side note, had said, yeah, that is cool. And we wrote a song together, Andy and I, and we called it Fear City, which Stephen did donate the name to, right?
Sure.
Well, he turns around and then takes the first verse from that song, which ours went, needles and pins haven't been so good to me.
Oh yeah.
And it would, ours said like poor white trash with a need for a social disease.
Okay.
And then he just changed part of that. He changed the white trash. He said poor cheap trash instead of poor white trash. Because he's not racist. Stephen, I'll just tell you that he loves everybody.
Sure.
Okay. And so he probably was, I don't know. He changed it, but that was cool that he changed it.
Sure.
You know. Yeah, so that line was actually from A Fear City from a Voodoo song for a little bit of music trivia. So flash forward, he was still a big deal at that time in 1992.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the radio, and I've stated this before, they would mention in San Diego anyway, when there was a Stephen Pearcy sighting or anything, they'd be like, there was a Stephen Pearcy sighting today at Warehouse Records, you know, wherever, some defunct place now.
Right.
So he was a big deal, but I remember when the song was coming out, the first single for Arcade, and it was like, drum roll, please. Okay, Arcade, everybody, are you ready? And then I was hearing the song for the first time, and I remember I was in my car, and I go, oh, this should be cool. And I turned it up, and then sure enough, he's like, needles and pins haven't been so good to me. And I was like, what the hell? And so that was like, that was my first taste of ever being like plagiarized.
Right.
But you know, it was kind of awesome at the same time.
Hell yeah. It was awesome for a minute. And you were like, wait a minute, why aren't I getting anything for that?
Well, I used to tell people, I used to tell girls back then when I was a young teenager, when I knew Stephen, I was like, yeah, you know, I know Pearcy, and actually I'm going to be in Ratt someday. I would like tell him that. Just whatever you know how it is.
Right. Of course. Hey, you got to use what you got back then, man.
That's right. You embellish. You embellish.
Dude, I remember there was this girl named Teresa. She lived up the road from me. And I convinced her to bang me if I could get her to meet Vince Neil.
Ah.
I had no contacts at all. You know, I was like 16 years old or whatever I was. You know, I was 15, 16 years old. But I literally ended up taking her to Motley Crue. And this is such a stupid, dumb story. I've never even told this even on CMS, but it's funny. I told her that I had a hookup because my mom had a hookup, but I didn't have a hookup. But I took her to the Motley Crue show, and I went through the whole rigmarole of pretending that I was supposed to have passes at the will call window.
Right. He's going to be calling me any minute with those.
No, I mean, I literally went up to the will call window and I was like, yeah, I'm on the guest list. You know?
Right.
And they were like, we don't have, and I'm like, what the hell? Why don't, you know, I'm raising a fit.
Right.
Meanwhile, I knew I wasn't on no dumb guest list, but because I raised that fit, I ended up hooking up with her after the show that night. She banged me anyway. I was like, all right, good. Perfect.
Hell yeah.
Had to go that route.
That's fantastic.
Just a straight up lie.
I also had a Motley Crue story like that too. It was on the Dr. Feelgood tour. That was the first time I ever got to see them.
Okay.
I have a picture somewhere of me with the tour shirt from that. But anyway, yeah, girl Sandy, I remember, you know, trying anything I can to hang out with this girl, and then Motley Crue was coming to town, and that caught her attention. I was like, hey, Motley Crue, I'll get us tickets. And this is back in like 89 or something, Dr. Feelgood.
Right.
Concert tickets were only $20.
Okay. Yeah, back then, sure.
That was a cheap date. But I didn't even have a car. She did. But we did go and see Motley Crue. I do remember she kind of bailed on me during the show. And I remember being really bummed out. Like I felt like I got kind of used for the, but then all of a sudden she reappeared and there she was. And then so the last like couple of songs were just like we're arm in arm, and it was a good memory.
Sure.
I guess for me it went from shitty to awesome.
Have you ever used the Pearcy connection to hook up with somebody that blew you off before?
No,
like now?
I never really went backwards like that.
Okay.
In dating, I usually keep moving on.
I would.
Yeah.
I definitely would, but all right, well let's move back to Pearcy for a minute. So we're talking a little bit about Arcade. Arcade obviously did not blow up. It should have. I honestly think it should have, especially Arcade 1. Arcade 1 was as good as any Ratt record to me.
Do you know that was a $1 million deal?
I don't doubt it.
That he had, like, they definitely looked at Stephen as being the main guy in Ratt.
Well, they thought he was
sure.
Ratt. Yeah, they thought he was definitely. Ratt. They didn't. I guess they didn't realize the importance of really Warren. Because Warren and Robin, I guess, really put that sound, and I mean Stephen too. But when Arcade hit, I just remember I was so pumped when Arcade 1 came out, and it didn't hit. I saw it. I saw the tour. Dude, it's one of the craziest things. I was in the front row of a tour at Flashes here in Cleveland, which no longer exists and hasn't existed in like 30 fucking years. But Stephen played there. And at some point I was in the front row and he just jumped out on my fucking shoulders and he looked down at me and he's like, all right, run around the crowd.
He jumped on your shoulder?
He got on my shoulder.
Was this a gay bar?
No, it was just a regular old bar, but he just he was rocking out and he just jumped out on my shoulder.
Wow.
And then I just fucking walked around with him.
Well, you are big and cuddly.
It was the dumbest shit ever. But it happened. But anyway, to talk about Arcade, it obviously did not hit. And I don't know that you would call it a failure because it was a damn good record, but it did not. It didn't do Ratt numbers, and it obviously was short-lived. And I know as a hardcore fan, I still love that record, but I know most people don't even know that record. For Stephen, do they look at side projects that don't hit as a failure? And is that why they don't really do much with it as they go? Like Stephen's a solo guy now, but every once in a while he might pull out a song from Arcade, but he's not going to bring out Living Dangerously, or he might pull out like Cry No More or something.
No, yeah, we've definitely pulled out a couple Arcade songs here and there. Dancing with the Angels, I remember playing. There's some other ones too. Nothing to Lose we've played. And at that time he was really trying hard. I mean, we were talking about guitar tunings earlier, but that's a record tune standard.
Okay.
And Stephen really did have a good range, and his studio stuff he did was pretty up there. Singing wise, and difficult, some of it, to sing. Like when it gets to that break in Nothing to Lose, was when you wake up, nothing, you got nothing to lose. That's like, damn, that's like way up there. So that's kind of a struggle. But there's a couple we try to do. Some of them are like technically difficult to play. They're like kind of technical Aerosmithy kind of songs. But anyways, going back to their deal, if they give a band $1 million, they're expecting to make like $10 million off them. Okay, so even though by today's standards, what would be kind of successful in a band you would hear about and certainly would be out touring at a profit, they're expecting way bigger levels when they're throwing that kind of cash down for something.
Right.
You want to borrow
how does he look at it now, though, is what I'm asking. Does he look at it as a failure? Does he?
No.
He looks at it as a positive. I mean, so why wouldn't he pull up, I don't know, Cry No More or Mother Blues or something just in the middle, just so that the 10 hardcores in the room would be like, holy fuck, that's awesome that he played this thing.
Perhaps. I guess we do more look at it as a majority and don't care about those 10 people at all.
Right.
No, I would play any of that stuff if he wanted to. The hardest thing is that, we haven't really toured in a long time. Like as you
Sure.
mentioned earlier, it's a lot of flyouts. And then with the Pearcy Band, we've certainly had a lot of lineup changes in the last years, and it seems like different people know different songs, and we really don't rehearse.
Right.
If I could be frank,
Sure.
If we did actually put in, a week or two of rehearsals, we could do a better set.
Right.
That maybe
So you think
encapsulated his
that's the
career.
reason he doesn't reach to like, like I'll just give a couple of examples, but like I would love personally, and again,
Okay.
this is my own personal taste, which is
Oh,
probably
hold on, Chris. Hold on.
yeah. Hello, Stephen.
Let me get this.
Yeah, get it
Okay, go
down.
ahead.
Get it down. I would like to hear one with the sun by Vertex.
Oh, One Like a Sun?
Yeah, whatever that
One
one's
with
called.
the Sun.
One with the sun, I think, or is it one like the
Red
sun?
alert. I don't think you're a real fan.
Oh,
You said
sorry,
it
I
wrong.
guess not. I would like to hear a Vicious Delight tune.
That's cool. I actually do have a couple songs on that.
Okay.
Okay, there's a song called Dizzy.
Right. All right.
Okay, this is the first song that I ever recorded with Pearcy, and I was probably like 22 years old or something like that. And he pulls me up into his studio, and he pulled that out of me on the spot.
Right.
And it actually is a good riff, and I've considered telling him, hey, we should actually do that one again, because it had something, but it was just too demo-y. But it did end up on the Vicious Delight. I believe it ended up on that record, if I'm not mistaken, Dizzy. But this would be the first time that I would end up playing with Stephen. I was a super young dude, hardly knew the guitar, but I was like, and he pulled in some studio drummer, and he was like, it was kind of badass. And he was like in a pissy mood because the arcade thing flopped or whatever, and he was like, I don't need anyone. Stop telling me you're someone. He was like, it was kind of badass. Like, I bet we could do a better version of it today.
Sure.
We should.
No, you should. And it's funny because he has some songs that no one knows that are really fucking good. He has some awful stuff too, like anything on Fueler was just garbage, but I hope you didn't write on that, but that's a bad record.
Okay,
that's a bad record.
Funny you should mention it. I do have a couple songs, but they were on like the European version that he put out. Because now you're talking about, this would be right when I joined the band. Like, he was putting out this Fueler record, and then he needed a couple extra songs to sell the European version of a deal, which is where you do a second record deal where you kind of not double dip on it, but you're able to like make another licensing deal or what have you overseas. But they requested that it had some tracks that the American version doesn't have, something to entice people into buying it. So he was under pressure to like write a couple more songs. So again, he pulls me in, his secret weapon at the last second, to like go in there, and he pulls like, and this time he had some drum tracks, but they were of some other demos he had done with some other drummer. Like at one point he was going to do a cover of the Partridge Family song, I Think I Love You.
Okay, yeah.
It was like ba 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 ba. The song's really weird, actually. If you end up,
Stephen does like the weird covers, as you.
It was a weird. I don't think he ever ended up doing it, but he had the drums from it. So he goes. So he says, "Can you do something with this?" So he had the drum. So he basically was requesting that I write an entirely different musical thing over these pre-existing drums that he happened to have, so he wouldn't have to have a drummer come in
and
play it. So now we're really scraping, you know what I mean? Really scraping the barrel. But I mean, as weird as those songs might have been, again, if we had more time and budget, we could have made the songs actually pretty good. But what makes it impressive is that we pulled it out of our buttholes like that day, you know, and put it
Nice.
out there. But yeah, I remember that. I remember going, shit, okay. So I am on that if it's the European version.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I don't have the European version. And
Cinematic. Is your version have a song called Cinematic on it?
I don't know.
Does it have a
Dude,
song
I'm gonna
called
tell you.
Young and the
I'm gonna tell
Damned?
you. I'm just being honest, and I love Steven. You know that,
Okay.
but that record just fucking blows. It is so not good. I just it's the probably my least favorite thing that he's ever done. I hated all the songs are like 2 minutes long. They all felt like half songs. Like he wasn't in the mood to be there. So
Well, check out the European version. There's the ones that I have, and they're cool. One's called Young and the Damned, and one's called Cinematic.
I'll
SIN.
check them out.
And Young and the Damned's cool. It's like Young and the Damned. We are. It was kind of like.
Did you were you involved with Social Intercourse?
I've been involved in all kinds of social intercourse, Chris.
I don't mean with men. I mean with Steven.
No, I didn't have and actually, okay, now you're juggling my memory brain. Okay. Social Intercourse was right when I joined the band. That would have been like 2001. Social Intercourse was out. I remember him having those CDs, bringing them to the merch booth. His next one was Fueler, where I was already in the band, but I was just in his live band. I wasn't necessarily prolifically writing songs with him at that point.
Okay.
But then he did, like, as I said, when they were doing the European version, he did call me in. So I do have an affiliation with Fueler on a out of the United States version.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah, well, I thought Social Intercourse had some good songs on it. Like Freak was a good tune, and
okay, Freak, that's Carrie Kelly playing guitar.
Okay.
On that. And it is good. There are some cool songs on there.
Yeah, Can't Ever Get Enough was a good tune.
Yep.
Yeah,
he writes good songs. Some of these he's playing guitar. People don't realize that, but on some of those records, he's actually playing guitar. I don't know if that's the one that has In Like Pink, but that's
it is.
him.
Yeah, it has In Like Pink. That's another good song.
I'm in the video, and that was him. You know what I like about Steven is he never gives up, no matter what is going on in his life. He always pushes forward, which is something a good lesson for everyone. But the In Like Pink video, if you look it up, at this point, he was making his own videos.
Right.
Okay? Like, I remember he's like, yeah, we went to a rehearsal studio that we play at. I forgot which one it was, but he literally took his digital camera and he like propped it up on the door. Okay. And it's a great shot. It actually doesn't look bad, you know.
Right.
When I look at it, it doesn't bother me. But I'm pretty young, and it was a long time ago. But I didn't play on that song. That's him playing guitar.
Okay.
But at the time, I didn't argue about it. I don't necessarily like being in a video where I'm not the guy who played on it. But I mean, when am I not going to do it? You know, Stephen Pearcy asked you to be in it.
Right. No, you're right. And I'm always curious with somebody like Steven, how much, and not only him, I'd imagine it's everybody.
But my feelings with that comment you put up there.
No,
okay,
dude, I'm telling you straight up. I said it.
Didn't hear the European version.
Yeah, I'll have to hear the Euro version because the version I have is ass. I agree with TV in the chat. But how much does he care what the fans think? Like, does he try to write knowing what the fans like, or does he not worry about it and he just knows that what he does generally fits what the Ratt fans like?
Yeah, no, he doesn't let them affect him at all. He is like legitimately, he's really good at not letting things bother him or care too much, I have to say. And he has his share of personal stuff, as anyone does, you know what I mean? But generally, he's really good at that. He's probably one of the most optimistic people I've ever known in my life.
Yeah. And well, I know this about Steven. He does not hold a grudge. Because at least with me, I mean, you mentioned how much you wanted to fucking kick my ass for the sound. Well, he told me when we ran into him at Rock USA in Wisconsin at the Van Halen thing. when we ran into Stephen, he told me flat out that he fucking hated that we goofed on him like that.
You guys were pretty ruthless about the time I came across that one episode.
Yeah, the Sao Paulo show.
It was that the episode. It was called "The Sad State of Stephen Pearcy."
Yeah, because he was all hammered and he sounded terrible, and he was hammered or he was high or whatever. But
I just remember at that time I was actually like trying to help and like monitor stuff a little bit on YouTube and try to do some damage control, but he didn't give a shit, and really it's because he really did. When you look back at Ratt in that 10 years, what their contribution was and how hard those guys worked and the pressures that went along with it. I mean, that'll take years off your life.
Sure.
And he gave all he needed to.
Yeah. Well,
but he didn't stop there. He kept going. So at that point, when you keep going, it's like, hey man, what are you complaining about? You know what I mean? I already gave you all this. Now I'm here, I'm doing that, and I'm trying to give you this. He's got to get off too. That's what he'll tell you.
And I got the impression that he sort of just knew that we liked him anyway, and that was just us being honest. And he wasn't upset about it. He was just like, oh, whatever, shit happened. I mean, he'll be the first one to tell you that was a shit gig.
He had very, very thick skin. Where when he took me out in the band in 2001, I was not used to any of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then like Metal Sludge.
Oh yeah.
That was horrifying, seeing things written about you and people are all weighing in on it. Like that really horrified me, where he could care less.
From the minute Stephen got popular though, he was taking a beating. Because there was always people that said from minute one, they said he couldn't sing, he didn't have a good voice,
he'll tell you that. He'll go, I was playing arenas and people were telling me I suck,
Well, they did. Dude, I can remember, I don't remember which magazine it was, but it was one of them, probably Rip, because Rip was about the only one that would actually rip on bands. And I remember I don't, it might have been, I don't know. But I know this, that whatever article I was reading, they were trying to sell the reasons that John Bon Jovi was better than Stephen Pearcy. And I'm reading this article and they were just saying that he writes better songs. His songs are more emotional. He's got a better voice, this and that. And I was like, Stephen, to me, is a way more recognizable voice than John Bon Jovi. John Bon Jovi is kind of generic sounding. When you hear Stephen Pearcy, doesn't matter if it says Vertex on the cover, if it says Stephen Pearcy on the cover, if it says Ratt on the cover, if it says Vicious Delight on the cover, it does not matter. You know who you're hearing.
That's right.
And that's because that dude, he had a unique sound.
He's the guy, and you better come out and see us when we come to your town.
That's right.
Show some love.
Yeah, and you guys are going to be in a lot of people's towns in 2023, right?
I saw my plane ticket is purchased for Chicago area. We're playing the Vixen Theater, I think, in about a week and a half.
Okay.
Out there, so it's official. When I see a plane ticket, I know it's going down. I know I haven't been fired or replaced or
nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, dude. And I mean, you guys are what, halfway through? Where you at with the record?
Well, his record that everybody's gonna get first is that what's it? Not Legend. What's it called? You know what?
Legacy.
Thank you. Legacy. I don't know why I can never remember that, but that is his first thing coming out, and I think he's really gone into the garage tapes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like he's pulling out at least stuff people haven't heard, like alternate versions of Ratt songs maybe and stuff. It's a compilation of unreleased things, and I know I probably have some stuff on there with them.
Okay.
But that'll be the first thing that comes out. And I don't know if there's a cover song. I didn't want to give it away yet. Very cool old rock and roll song that he tasked me with doing, and I don't know if we're gonna get this done in time to get it on there, but I think he does want to do it, and he did. I just turned it into him like 2 days ago, and he did write me back in all caps. He's like, "Sounds awesome, brother." Like 10 exclamation marks. So
Nice.
maybe he'll move on it quick. But that's a cool little cover
So
surprise.
will we see you and him in zoot suits in a video?
I hope so. I'll pick up my old Bow Wow Wow Gretsch. And then the next record will come out hopefully later next year. But we've been writing that for a couple of years now.
Right.
Just like as far as, and when I say that, I think if you're really going to put a kick-ass record together, you really do need like 20 or 30 song ideas to pick the best 10 or that resonate with him anyway. You know what I mean? Because I write stuff where he probably just doesn't hear something on it, and then it just whatever, it sits in limbo. But then there's stuff that I think he didn't even listen to, and then it's time to do the record, and he's like all of a sudden wants to do that song.
Right.
I'm like, oh shit, okay. Let me relearn that.
What is the importance these days of a record? Is it financial? Is it just he's creative and wants to create and put something out there, or
well, the cool thing I think when you're a platinum artist, you know, you can actually still sell in the thousands of records, and when you own it, you know, you're talking some good money, and just to have stuff for the merch booth and something to talk about. And you know, we want the crowd to get off, of course, but you know, he needs to get off too. He likes to write music as I do. I couldn't imagine going the rest of my life just playing the same songs and not ever writing anything new. I mean, that's you know, part of what we live for, you know. So whether they like it or not, we're going to do it, or whether they think it's shit or not.
And that's been one of the cool things about the Stephen solo shows is not only do you mix in some solo stuff here and there, but you also play some covers that are not the standard horseshit covers. It's not, you know, it's not living, loving, da 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 da. You know, the same old Zeppelin over and over and over again. You know, it's like cool songs that like influenced him, which is cool. It's cool to hear that against the rap music so that you can kind of get a feel for where he came from.
You know, it was a cool, and this is from where he came from, but there was one awesome cover that we did, and it is on YouTube. I have a Mickey Rap Madness YouTube channel that I should put more love into that I don't, but I think it's on there. But it's a David Bowie cover.
Okay.
It's a song called Cracked Actor.
Oh, wow.
And surprisingly, it was pretty awesome. And we actually pulled it off one night. And I think something gets ingrained in you when it's a band from your youth that just burns in your brain. Like I can remember all the Metallica lyrics for some reason, even though I can't remember our conversation from yesterday. And, you know, he was like that with his music, you know, in the 70s when he was a teenager.
Right.
And his sister took him to see Ziggy Stardust at the San Diego Sports Arena. So he loves David Bowie.
Right.
And I remember he was like, you know what song I want to do? Cracked Actor, which I personally wasn't even really familiar with at the time. But and then I was listening to it. I'm like, I don't know, maybe it almost has a Marilyn Manson kind of feel to potential to it.
Sure.
But anyway,
and that's always cool.
It was short-lived, but I think we only played it like with that lineup a couple of times, and it was a situation where the crowd didn't recognize it, and that's what sucks. Okay, and as you were talking earlier with playing like more obscure songs and B-sides, most of the people there, 90% of them won't know what the hell it is.
Right. But that sucks though, because then we always joke about on the CMS about Dream On. And how much fucking Steven Tyler must hate playing Dream On, because he's had to play it every gig of his life pretty much since, you know, it was like a hit when they started, to where now he's got to end every single show with Dream On, and he's probably like, hate this fucking song.
Maybe
I gotta imagine.
Well, at the end of it, he probably
still
does.
Like Round and Round.
I think he does. I mean, for the same reason why I like to play it too, is because you know what makes people happy. It's like having some really good news for somebody. You know, if you went door to door and you're like, you just won $1,000, just handed it to somebody. You feel good, you know, giving it to them, and they love that song, and so we're giving them $1,000.
But see, I'll equate it to CMS world. I get people all the time when I'm talking CMS, and they'll be like, Do you remember when you said whatever it is that I said?
Right.
And if I'm talking to them in a bar or something, they'll be like, "Tell me that story again." They'll be like, "Oh man, do you remember when you talked about Wes on the boat? Tell me that story. My girlfriend here never heard it, or whatever." And then I'll, most of the time I'll just tell it to them again, but I don't have the same juice for it anymore because it was when it was fresh, it was fresh.
That's when you have to start making shit up and like
Yeah, but I don't
embellishing
want
it
to
a
be
little
that
bit.
guy. I don't want to be that guy. But to my point, Stephen is retelling Round and Round for the 3 millionth time.
Right.
Well,
it's muscle memory too, I'll tell you, which is awesome because then in the past, no matter how intoxicated or whatever the case may be, he could go out and just fart those lyrics out, and just like he could be in a coma probably in a hospital, and you can hand him a microphone and he'd be like,
out on the streets. That's where we'll meet.
There's certain songs, like the majority of them, I like to know that he's gonna do a confident show,
right?
So that is the majority of them are ones that he's got that muscle memory on, and then maybe working a new one. We were doing a couple songs off the last 2 solo records, but not too many because again, not as well known as the Ratt stuff.
Right.
And View to a Thrill really got no promotion, unfortunately, and I worked really hard on it too, which sucks.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever like talk about or work up, and maybe this doesn't happen, but do you ever talk about even doing like deeper tracks from the Ratt stuff, like I don't know, Got Me on the Line or something like that?
We have, and it's kind of I guess there's some contention with that, with what the current lineup thinks the crowd would like or not.
Okay.
Our tour manager thinks that because when the Bobby Blotzer band played these songs that the crowd loved it.
Sure.
But I mean, that was a younger singer singing it, so I don't necessarily know if it's a song that we haven't done in a long time, how good we're going to do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's certain factors that just go into what songs we're going to play, but the muscle memory thing, that's a big part of the show because we want to come out and kick ass and not have it be weird. And most of the people do just want to hear Wanted Man, Way Cool Jr., You're in Love. The Ratt has so many well-known hits that were videos. Yeah.
Well, I mean, dude, Ratt has enough hits that you can't even play all the hits.
Right. We try to go, was it a video? The ones that seem like we should probably play are from the Point Break movie.
Nobody Rides for Free.
We should probably play that.
Yeah.
And then the other one's Shame, 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 which he always says that's too many lyrics, or
that's a good song though.
It's pretty heavy and cool, and some people probably would expect that. But short of that, we play like about 15 to 17 songs, and 15 of those are certified hits off his platinum selling record. So
that's
we play them really loud.
They have a lot of, I mean, there was a lot of hits. There was easily 10 top 5 hits, right? Easily.
Right. And then when we start playing the deeper cuts, though, we feel it. Like you can see the crowd take a big dip.
Okay. That's everybody's filing out to go get a beer or whatever?
It's not. They're not leaving. And it's not that they don't like it, but you definitely notice that they don't know it. It's something you have to be on stage to kind of be aware of.
Sure.
But it's an obvious thing where they go from singing everything and being really into the show to all of a sudden just staring at you and standing there,
and then maybe just singing the chorus part because they sort of remember that from listening to the record or whatever.
I'll give an example. Like there's a cool Ratt song called Dangerous But Worth the Risk.
Oh yeah, good one.
Okay, and it's cool, and it's like the beginning's conducive for a live show. It's like right. Has all the 80s quintessential riffs going on there, but people don't know that one as well. It wasn't a video, and when we play it, they're just kind of staring at us, and it sucks, like, because it takes effort to play it, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you want to see, like when you're making love to a woman, right, You want everything you're doing to be
not some
to
little
elicit
girl.
a response. And if you notice she's not doing anything for a certain amount of time, you're like, geez,
Right.
maybe I shouldn't do that.
Right.
You know, or whatever. It's kind of the same idea.
Yeah, but who pays attention to what she wants?
That's right. It's really about us.
Yeah, that's right. And therefore, you should play all the songs that only Stephen likes.
Nice. Rat pisses all over Motley. Well, that's just mean.
That's true, though.
They're both awesome bands from our
No,
youth.
they're not.
They're
They're not. I can say it. You can't, but I can. They're not
well,
both
we're
awesome
gonna be
bands.
playing shows with Vince, so absolutely, I gotta be.
Look,
cool.
I'm not going to take anything away from the fact that Vince and Motley Crue had a lot of good songs.
Totally.
But they had equally or more bad songs.
They did.
They were never a great band. They were a great radio band. When it came to radio hits, couldn't touch them. They always had 3 radio hits, and they always made a shit ton of money. I'm not going to take that away from Motley Crue. I'm not going to lie and say that they didn't. The problem is when you get past those 3 songs on a record, you know, you go to Girls, Girls, Girls. You get past the title track, you get past Wild Side, and you get past
That's right.
What was the other song on that one?
There isn't any other ones. You just nailed it. Like, and that was all those bands had that in common. However, I don't know. Rat had later on, some of their records started getting some filler like that, but even they were pretty good. Where some of these other bands really, just like you said, like bands like Kiss would only have like 2 barely decent songs, and they would have at least one good song that they would have a video for, kind of base the tour off of. But I felt ripped off when I think of my kid recollection of having to spend $12-13 on a record.
Sure.
Really, there was only 2 songs I could have bought. I would have preferred like today
buy a single or whatever. Yeah, dude. And I'll argue with you, Stephen, whoever, all day long about those later Rat records. City to City, or whatever that album was called, the one with City to City on it.
Right.
Reach for the Sky.
Yes.
Or the one with Shame on it, Detonator. Those are great. Those are good. Those are great records. And there's 7 good songs on each one of those.
But they had, at that point, they were worth millions, and they had songwriters that were being brought in to work with them. Now, Stephen was a part of all those sessions. You know what I mean? He's writing that, but you're bringing in this other entity into the writing process. So then you're getting away. Now they're thinking, we need to make money. We need to make more commercial songs. We need to do this. Where like the Rat that really made people diehard fans was a more heavy metal Rat.
Sure.
That was more like
where do you think they changed? Where do you think they changed that? Reach for the Sky, or before
I think
that?
It was around Reach for the Sky. Probably.
I think it's before that. I can point to one song where I absolutely hated it, and I was like, "Oh, this is different." 7th Avenue.
On 7th Avenue.
Hate that song.
7th Avenue.
It just was like, what is
I don't remember how that one goes. People do that. They call out songs, and I didn't have a lot of money to buy records back then anyway, but I did have a couple of the Motley ones. I think I ended up with a Rat tape or something, but I didn't know. When I was in Stephen's band, people would call out songs. Play 7th Avenue.
No, don't.
And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell that is.
I want to know to meet you, girl, on 7th Avenue.
Some of the other guys in our band really know some of these, like Scott Coogan. He knows all the Rat stuff, as well as the other guitarist knows.
That's a bad song.
He's mentioned that they've wanted to play some of these deeper cuts. I'm okay with it, but I think
they want to play 7th Avenue.
No.
Oh, come on.
No. We were talking about playing I Want a Woman.
That's a good tune. Not some little girl.
Yeah.
Hasn't grown up in daddy's big world. I like that.
Yeah, that's another video song where we were I was like, yeah, we could pull that off. So I mean, we did learn that, and we might be playing that.
All right, here, answer this question for Chad in the chat room. Did Rat not make the stadium tour because they couldn't get the OG members together, or was it because Motley was afraid Rat would blow them off the stage?
Yeah, I think that they didn't know what was probably going on with Rat, maybe, but that would have been perfect. You know?
I just don't think Rat is big enough. A Rat reunion, I don't think it'd be big enough. It would not be bigger. You got to look at what it would have been. They would have replaced Poison.
Right.
So they got to be a bigger draw than Poison.
Here's the question.
Which I don't think they are.
Had Bobby Blotzer not gone off and hijacked the Rat name, would there be an alternate at history where, don't make me all big on the screen, like anyways, would there be an alternate universe where Rat did get put on that stadium tour? Maybe if all that goofy drama didn't happen.
I don't think so, man. I just don't. I think I'll tell you where I think if you wanted to split off the alternate universe, you got to go way back to before the Two Rats. You got to go back to like 2000.
A Tale of Two Rats.
Because I think once you've done two bands with the same name, you've wrecked the brand.
Right, and you're talking about John Corabi
or Corabi or Jizzy Pearl. And again, I saw those shows. Those were fun shows. I saw Rat and I saw Stephen literally within a week of each other, I think.
Jizzy's just a cool singer, so everything he does is cool no matter what it is.
Jizzy's great. I love Jizzy, man. But I think that's where Rat, once they did that, you can't go back. Yeah. It's the same reason LA Guns could never be on that tour, or Great White could never be on that tour, or Queensryche could never be on that tour. If you've had two bands with the same name, you're dead.
Well, you're right in the sense that, there was never a Scab Poison running around.
Never. No, when Poison, I mean, as close to a Scab Poison as they had was the Kotzen years and the Blue Sarzino years, but
allow me to interject. The fact that they have Joan Jett, and I know she's had some of her bandmates in the band for years, but it's a solo band.
Yeah, it's not the Blackhearts.
It's not the guys I saw in the I Love Rock and Roll video.
No.
You know what I mean? And so with that said, why the hell wasn't the Stephen Pearcy Band put on that? That would have been so kick-ass. Like, let us open the show.
Yeah, see, here, I'll tell you why. Because she's a media darling. Her music's always been average at best. Let's be honest. She has two fucking hits. She has two fucking hits, but Rolling Stone loves her.
Right.
She's like the fucking Pretenders.
And she's a safe bet. Joan's going to show up and deliver. You're not going to be any potential issues. Perhaps.
But think about everything that tour had to overcome, too. You have Motley Crue, notorious, throwing their dick around guys. So you needed a chick band to cover the Me Too crowd, to hide the fact that Motley Crue are scumbags. And Poison were scumbags too back in the 80s. Not as bad, but they were whores too.
This is a game of 3D chess. 4D chess.
But dude, to sell something that big, you got to be able to say, well,
you got to cover the bases.
We got a woman on the tour.
Yeah, they're not misogynistic.
No.
Bad men.
Joan's happy to come out and play these shows with.
If Joan's playing, it's legit and and it's been approved by the LGBTQ.
Yeah, the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Joan Jett, she's out on the tour. Is she in the Hall of Fame? Probably.
Well, we're gonna do our own little mini stadium tour, and this will be Vince Neil and Stephen Pearcy, which it's been a very polarizing announcement, I have to tell you.
Why? Why are people upset about that? Because
usually my Facebook is so chill and like a safe place, but it became very hostile very fast.
Do people not like Vince? Is it because of Vince?
Yeah, I'd say mostly, where like people feel compelled to say something negative, which are generally like people that you don't hear from that, and all of a sudden they felt compelled to go, well, he's, whatever the negative thing, it was just like, wow, okay.
Look, the problem, and I can already tell what it is people hate the fact that he fucking comes out there and half-asses the gigs. That's what it is, whether it's because he's fat or because he doesn't sing or what. I'm sure it's both of those things, right? He sings poorly and he's fat. That's the two negatives that Vince gets.
Yeah, he's not getting much compassion. But when you and I know, generally speaking, we hold these guys up at a high level, but I can even speak for myself because you're not going to see me shirtless at a show.
Sure.
Okay, I'm pretty average, dude. You know what I mean? And it's hard to like maintain that. I realize he makes millions of dollars. If you want to pay me millions of dollars, I'd look like Bruce goddamn Lee, but.
Yeah, well,
whatever. I've never had millions. He's already had the millions, so he doesn't look at it the same as me.
No, he doesn't. And here's the problem with Vince that most people have, and I'll say it straight up so that you ain't taking any of this hit. This is my problem with Vince. It's not so much he's fat. Fuck, I'm fat. Who cares about that? That is what it is. If you hate me because I'm fat, then you just fucking hate me. And I'm sure Vince is the same way with that.
Right.
The problem with Vince is he doesn't do what's necessary to give the people what they're paying for.
Right.
Half-assing songs, singing every third word, that kind of bullshit it feels like a ripoff if you're spending the money, and it feels more like a ripoff. Truthfully, it feels more like a ripoff when it's not Motley Crue, because Motley Crue are average players, but the Vince Neil Band are great players. Those guys are he's got a great backing band behind him. And
right.
Then
You're going to get a kick-ass show.
Yeah. But
and it's a sing-along anyway, so hopefully that'll make up for it.
Yeah, but he comes out and he's like, Rat, hear me, hey,
yeah, and and now we got memes and stuff, and people are pretty brutal, and it's so much easier to share. Like when these guys had bad shows in the 80s, nobody heard about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's another thing too, is that Motley Crue, I saw Motley all the way back to Shout at the Devil.
Okay.
Never were a good live band.
I had a great and I accept your opinion. My San Diego Sports Arena Dr. Feelgood night was a very awesome one. I don't recall hearing anything that sounded funky to me as far as the performance, but those were my 17-year-old ears. My 50-year-old guy ears, but I disagree with that.
Was that the years that he was wearing the spider button-up shirts that had like a spider design on them?
I don't recall that.
Who was the opener? Faster Pussycat?
They were the opener, yes.
Yeah, I saw the same tour. I saw it up at Oakland Coliseum. Same tour. That was when I was out in California, 89. So I saw the same tour. And they were better than they had been, honestly. Right. But I mean, haven't seen them. I mean, I saw them on Girls. I couldn't believe they were going to get through the set.
Okay.
They just were stoned out of their minds, terrible, misplaying shit. Just it was
their
really
addictions
bad.
Were taken over by that point, and they couldn't hold it together hardly. And it is weird. I mean, it's the whole ride is a weird one, and you mix in the partying and the drugs and the alcohol, and it's easy to get caught up in it.
Right. No, it is. But the thing is with Motley, they got more and more as they got more and more successful, they got worse as players because they just didn't care as much. Dude, I'll tell you, I've seen Motley, I don't know, 10, 15 times. I was a big fan of them up until Nikki started hating me, and now I can't listen to them anymore. But but I will say the best that they ever, and this will probably surprise you, best show I ever saw of them was on Theater of Pain.
Okay.
They were just because they were still young, they were still a little bit hungry. They were they were big, but they were still out to prove to the world that they were the best.
Sure. They felt important and were doing their best.
And I think, I'm not positive on this, but I'm pretty sure Cleveland got the first show when Vince got out of jail for killing Razzle. So he was pumped to make kind of the big splash. He didn't want to come out and suck off the back of being in jail.
Sure.
And I mean, they destroyed it, and it was a killer show. And it's funny because I see Vince saying things now like he doesn't like any of the songs on that album, and that album wasn't any good. And there were some good songs on that record that they played live that were great, like "Keep Your Eye on the Money" and stuff. That was a good song.
Not to go into a dark point of what you were just talking about, but it's hard for me to agree that he murdered someone. You know what I mean? Because given the circumstances, and I know he was fucked up, and it's a terrible tragedy what happened, and no one should operate a car when they've had too much to drink. That's obvious.
Yeah.
But I have always felt that the other partying people that get into the car are equally at fault.
I do agree with you there.
Razzle ordered a fucking Uber, and Vince Neil showed up. you know. They were
No,
all fucked up, and I just it's not the same as if like, yeah, Razzle was banging Vince's girl, he stabbed him to death. You know
no,
what I mean?
but
It was an
but
accident.
Vince did 30 days in jail or whatever it was.
Sure.
Meanwhile, the other family that got, chump change as a settlement that he crashed into, they're still fucked up.
Absolutely. There's other people messed up, and
they had nothing to do with
right.
it. That to me is the crime, is that he didn't have to do. If me or you did that, we'd still be in jail.
Do you think you think so? Yeah, manslaughter. I mean, I guess it depends what state it happens in.
If we weren't still in jail, we'd just be out. We wouldn't have been out more than 5 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to do at least 5, maybe 5 to 7. I don't think anyone's gotten a life sentence for manslaughter. You know what I mean? I think he would have eventually gotten out had he done more time, but I don't know.
He got out because of his celebrity. He got out. I mean, he got out and made fucking PSAs that, hey, don't drink and drive.
Yeah, Robert Crosby did that too. Yeah, it's really money. I mean, but on a flip side, I guess that is one awesome thing about America and probably a lot of other countries too, that you got yourself into some shit. Yeah. Well, I guess I hope you got a couple $1 million to smooth this over.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Or because if we didn't have that kind of money, we would be doing the time. And I'm sure if he didn't have that kind of money, or they weren't the machine they were at that time to the economy or whatever.
Yeah.
But the whole thing sucks, and I feel bad, and we wonder why he has issues. I mean, he's had to live with that his whole life.
No, I agree.
But he hasn't. His daughter dying. It sucks, man.
But I'll tell you this, and again, I don't want to turn this into a Vince killing session, especially since you're going out on tour with him. But
yes,
he has not helped himself any with some of his behavior.
No,
he's
done some fucked up shit, right?
Like when the Skylar Neal benefit shows were going on, and he refused to sign shit.
Oh, I thought you were going to say punch some woman for trying to take a picture or something.
No, dude. Here in Cleveland, the Skylar Neal, they had like an annual Skylar Neal,
which is his daughter that passed away.
Yeah, and the girl that used to, and me and Neely both knew the girl, and she was a sweetheart, and she brought a bunch of stuff to get signed to get auctioned off.
Okay.
To raise money for Vince's dead kid.
Right.
Basically, and Vince wouldn't sign it. He was like, no, I'm not signing this shit.
Chris. I'm gonna write this down.
All right, yeah. Tell Vince. Tell Vince I'm still mad.
One of the first things I'm gonna do when I see Vince is ask him why the hell he didn't do that.
Look, you assume you're gonna see Vince.
I'm gonna see him, dude. We're playing. It's like a mini.
That doesn't mean that you'll see him.
I have a picture with Vince Neil.
Do you?
It's before they did the remaking Vince Neil era, but yeah, and he was actually totally cool to me.
I'm looking forward to seeing a current picture of you and Vince Neil.
Okay, I think. Oh, are you?
Yes.
Is that a dare? Or
that is a dare? That's the bet. That's the bet. I will buy you your next set of guitar strings.
Ooh.
When is the show?
Our first Vince Neil show is at a casino in Arizona or something.
2 weeks?
Is it that soon? I really should look.
Here's what we'll do. Here's what we'll do. If the Monday after that show, you can produce a picture of you and Vince together, I will buy you the guitar strings, your next set of guitar strings.
Give me a challenge that's difficult, man.
I'm giving you that challenge. Let me see you live that one down.
I'll get your picture, okay?
All right.
Let me see that one. Now, whether he's aware that I'm taking a picture,
no, you gotta be arm in arm.
You didn't say that. It's too late.
You got to be arm in arm.
I just need to be in the photo with him.
Anybody could photobomb him.
No, they can't. You need special access and credentials for that.
Yeah, I don't want a picture of him and Stephen with you going behind him.
Okay, well, now you're just being difficult.
Yeah. Hey, I'm putting a prize up for this.
Yeah,
those strings are going to cost me what, like $5?
They're like $5. I thought you were going to say like you're going to give me one of those cool Eddie Van Halen guitars on your wall or something.
Hey, you can have all of them. I'll send you the picture. All right, dude, let's get the fuck out of here, man.
All right, man. Well, hey, we made lemonade out of lemons. Lemonade out of
turned it
lemons.
into something.
That's right.
All right. So you obviously have no idea when and where you're going to be anywhere. So we'll leave that as go to what? officialstephenpearcy.com to find out where Erik will be.
Yes, and come out and see those Vince Pearcy shows too. He's starting to put those up there. There's going to be more. There'll be more.
Yeah. Everybody should definitely go and check them out. Now, will you be, when you're out on the road, will you be rock star Erik, or if somebody says, I saw you on Chris Akin Presents, will you take a photo with them?
I take photos. I'm so nice to people, generally speaking. I mean, especially if they have drugs. No, I'm kidding. I'll take pictures with anybody, but I don't go out looking. I'm not like the guy who's gonna go roaming out hoping you're gonna come up to me. Like if you happen to be somewhere where I'm at, like But yeah.
Well, there you go. Go up to Erik, buy him a beverage. How's that? Buy Erik a beverage. He likes beverages. What kind of beverage should they bring you?
No, I don't. You know what? I only drink at home. I honestly, just to specify, I do not drink out at the Pearcy shows. I'm totally sober at those, and that's
is that because of Stephen? Or
absolutely, absolutely, out of respect for him, and I
slightly different environment when I saw you.
Now I don't care. I've drank a lot of beverages tonight.
Nice. All right, we're getting out of here. Make sure you check out Erik whenever he comes to your town. officialstephenpearcy.com for that. Get all of our interviews and stuff. I have no idea who's on the show Wednesday or Friday this week, but there'll be new interviews Wednesday and Friday. And I'll get this one turned around for tomorrow. And that's it. So for Chris Akin Presents, I am Chris Akin.
And I'm Erik Ferentinos.
And we will see you next week.